about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So we have a lot to get to today, a lot to talk about. However, one of the biggest headlines of the day is the stock market has been really, really tumbling after President Trump on Liberation Day spoke about how he's going to do semi-reciprocal tariffs. By the reciprocal tariff idea is if China, let's say, is charging us, 70% on some of our imports, he wouldn't charge the same amount, but still at least increase the tariff on China. And if a country is charging for our exports to import to their countries, we're going to do something similar. And, when you see the stock market panic, I love looking at the psychology of things, especially since many of my patients are complaining that they're losing money in the stock market. Me, I didn't have a lot of money in the stock market because I just, I was still paying off student loans and family issues. So I never really necessarily put a lot of money in the stock market. So my 401k, not doing that badly because, again, I didn't have that much to lose. But for those people that have been investing and doing the right thing, you were pretty happy in 2019. Then you were pretty happy in 23 when the stock market started to rise. For those of us that got NVIDIA stock, we were really, really happy because of tech and AI stocks going up. But was it overly inflated? Everybody said there's going to be a correction. There's going to be a correction for 5 years. Everybody has said the stock market's going to crash. The stock market, it's going to reset. It's going to correct. And so when you see, people panic, if you notice, President Trump made his announcement after the stock market closed yesterday. Stock market went up yesterday because there is some optimism of the long-term effect of what these tariffs are going to do. But he knew that the stock market, anytime you say tariff, the stock market drops. So now the stock market is dropping. Is it temporary? Are we going to be going into an inflation? So I guess, and I'm a doctor, so we don't really necessarily break down the economy, but we do talk about the psychology of the consumer. We do talk about what inflation does. We talk about, because everything is related to our health and everything is kind of related to, how we deal with our everyday either purchasing or our stocking or our medication. So you can't, talk about health if you don't talk about the economy. And these reciprocal tariffs, to me, sound like a good idea. I'm actually surprised we didn't do it, in the past. When you look at what some of these countries charge us, so China charges us 67%. Whereas, so what we're going to do is it's not going to be reciprocal. It's not going to be 67%. On Chinese imports, it's going to be 34%. European Union charges us 39%, but we're going to charge them 20%. Vietnam, 90%. 90% Vietnam charges us. We're not going to charge 90%. We're going to charge 46%. So, when you look at this, you're like, well, I don't understand. Why would the stock market panic? Well, because the stock market isn't about long term. You guys saw that with your climate change and your green stocks. They didn't jump and make a lot of money. And in fact, it's been very up and down. Well, just like with the economy, if we do later become, less dependent on the IRS and more dependent on the ERS, where we get the external revenue coming in, it's going to be huge. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. The same patience people are having with climate change and things to, not reusing your towel in the shower, right at a hotel, so they don't have to pay for labor costs for housekeeping, and they can hire fewer housekeepers. They have you reuse the towel for the environment. You're not going to notice, what that does to the environment today or tomorrow or next week, and your pocketbook won't notice it. But down the line, they're saying, well, your kids are going to notice the fact that you reused your towel when you stepped out of your shower. Somehow your great-grandchildren are going to benefit. And so we do it. Well, same thing with these reciprocal tariffs. If we have allowed other people to overcharge us and we just keep getting spanked, And here's Trump saying we're not doing this anymore. Yeah, there's going to be a correction. Will it slow growth? Will we go into a recession? I don't want to see us go into a recession, but if you notice, every 5 to 10 years we're in a recession. There, every single decade at least, so if it is going to happen, it'll probably happen, when we're doing this reset and this restructuring. But I guess what I am inferring from all of this is people are going to be done screwing over the U.S. The U.S. has been very, very generous. And why are we overpaying when we don't have to? And everybody says, well, gosh, this is going to raise prices. Well, we're already spending the 67% that China's telling us to. Yeah, China may say, well, now we're going to raise more. But you see, they can't match because we're already if China matches our tariff, I hope it does, because our tariff is less. If all these countries go, you want to know what? Then fine. Fine. Okay, we're going to match. If America's tariffing us, we're going to match it. Well, then good. Then that means all the tariffs go down. So it'll be very interesting to see what they say. How much more are they going to charge us for the goods that we're buying? And then how much longer are we going to be relying on these other countries? Why are we, buying our own medicines and making our own medicines here? Why are we being so vulnerable where China runs most of our generics, or Mexico or India? Well, we could be doing that here. Why don't we have more car companies here? Why do we, being the best country in the universe, all right? Because now, people are saying there's other, alien and there's other Earths or whatever out there. But if we're the best country in the universe, then why do we have to rely on these other countries? I guess it's nice. Well, we have a partnership. You buy our stuff and we charge you extra money. And so we're connected at the hip. Yeah, that might be all nice. But no, doesn't make sense anymore. America doesn't necessarily need. Yeah, I get in the olden days, you might have needed spices from some countries, or we might need rare, metals or whatever. But we can make our own medications. We can manufacture our own cars. And why get screwed over? 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So tell me something. What does Brett Favre, Michael J. Fox, Johnny Cash, Muhammad Ali, Robin Williams, Peanuts creator Charles Schultz, Pope John Paul II, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Neil Diamond, Ozzy Osbourne, what do all these people have in common? Well, there's something that connects them. They had Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's is one of the most common neurodegenerative disorders. I think it's second. And it affects about 1 million Americans a year. And April is Parkinson's Awareness Month. And so today, we are going to be focusing on Parkinson's, and joining us is Dr. Kathleen Blake, who is living with the disease, and John Lair, President and CEO of the Parkinson's Foundation. Kathleen, John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
John, you do a lot of work with Parkinson's. Talk to my listeners about what Parkinson's disease is.
Sure, yeah, I think you started to really capture it. So it's a neurodegenerative disease that slowly progresses over time. It affects more than 1 million Americans in the U.S., and 90,000 individuals are newly diagnosed each year, which is a pretty dramatic increase over prior estimates. The World Health Organization says that it is the fastest growing neurological disease, and you're right, it's second to Alzheimer's in the United States. It's a disease that primarily affects people later in life, their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Only a small percentage will be like Michael J. Fox and develop it before the age of 50. It's progressive, so it means it kind of gets worse over time. But some people, no two people have the same course of disease. Some people, it progresses rapidly, and some people progresses slowly. The main initial things are resting tremor, difficulty moving, difficulty navigating your physical environment. But there are also cognitive issues, mental health issues, GI issues, sleep issues. So it really does affect, it can affect the whole body.
And it's pretty overwhelming for the patient, for the family. John, what would you say is the most important thing to know about this disease?
I think the thing to know is that you can live for a long time with Parkinson's, and you can have a very good, high quality of life. There are things you definitely are going to need to do, right? Get good care, good routine care, and exercise. And I think Kathy will probably talk more about that. But exercise, we used to tell people not to exercise because we were worried about people falling and injuring themselves. Now we recognize that exercise is probably the most important thing that you can do to keep Parkinson's as much at bay as possible.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Kathleen Blake, here you are, trained, working with patients, and then you become afflicted with Parkinson's. Kathy, talk to us, if you don't mind my calling you Kathy, talk to us about the symptoms.
Well, so I'm a cardiologist, now retired, so I did not recognize my own symptoms, which began about 12 years ago. And then 7 years ago, a very astute young physical therapist who I was seeing for left shoulder pain, I mentioned that I was also noticing a slight tremor in my left hand. And she was the person who really got the ball rolling, sent me to a neurologist. I then saw a movement disorder specialist, and I was told that I had Parkinson's disease.
Wow. And so how are you managing your symptoms?
So the most important thing, not just for me, but for everybody who is involved or has Parkinson's disease, is exercise. And the reason for that, because I really think of it as a medicine. It is the only proven strategy that will slow down the rate of progression of the disease. And so it's really important that people do exercise regularly and that they do something they enjoy. So this is not meant to be a prescription for misery. It might be that you enjoy dance or rock steady boxing, or you like riding a bicycle, or whatever it is. Do it consistently. You might mix it up over time or change your focus, but exercise is critical. until the day when we have a cure and or we can prevent the disease.
Amen to that. John, you are president and CEO of the Parkinson's Foundation. God bless you and your team. And God bless you, Kathy, for sharing your story. John, what resources are available?
Yeah, so thank you for that. There are a lot of resources and support out there. And we think the Parkinson's Foundation is a really great place to start. We pride ourselves on being the trusted and go-to source for all things Parkinson's, where you can get reliable, evidence-based, peer-reviewed information. There's a lot of misinformation out there. If you type in Google or you just read your newsfeed, you're going to see some things that are over-promising about Parkinson's. So we really recommend that people go to our website, parkinson.org. That's parkinson.org. We also have a helpline, which is a toll-free helpline, which is 800-4PD-INFO. That's 4PDINFO. Staffed by trained experts in Parkinson's care who can answer any questions you might have and direct you to resources in your local community. We offer virtual and in-person educational meetings. We have lots of print and digital resources available to people if they're interested in that. All is available on Parkinson.org. So we really encourage people to go there first.
I love it. I love it. Kathy, I know you guys have to have another interview. Any final thoughts for people with Parkinson's?
Join our community. Do not isolate yourself. We're a welcoming community, and we can help.
Love it. Love it. John, one more time, where can my listeners go for more information?
Website is parkinson.org, or call our helpline, 800-4PDINFO.
Love it. Can't wait to have both of you back. John, Kathy, God bless, and can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So symptoms of Parkinson's include you starting to feel more stiff, feel more rigid. You might start losing your balance, which is so deadly, especially for individuals who fall, break a hip. My friend's mother had just recently fallen. She was healthy, just had recovered from some shoulder surgery, was running around the house, doing some things, fell, broke her hip, died 12 days later. And so Parkinson's, people ask, well, how do you die from Parkinson's? Well, one of it is if you have difficulty moving, you're more stiff, you could be more prone for pneumonia, you could be more at risk for bed sores, which is why Kathy had said, keep moving, keep moving. But another thing is the poor balance. And so you don't want to try to kind of hide that from family members. Oh, they're going to make me use a cane. Get something to stabilize yourself because a fall can be deadly. You may have this tremor at rest. We call it a pill rolling tremor, where it looks like you're playing with a pill in one hand. When you use the hand, the tremor seems to subside. But when you're sitting there not using your hand, the tremor is more prominent. We call that a tremor at rest or a resting tremor or a pill rolling tremor. Some people with Parkinson's will move slower because they're rigid, because they're stiff, because they're apprehensive of falling, because they don't trust some of their movements. They might eventually be unable to move. But one sign I could tell somebody has Parkinson's before they even come into the doctor's office because they have these shuffling steps. They walk very, very slow. This is why people thought President Biden had Parkinson's, because he was walking very, very slow, guarding his walk. Now, it could just be he was afraid of falling on the in front of the cameras, but a very, very small stride, shuffling steps. And so eventually people with Parkinson's, as we saw with Robin Williams, depression, anxiety, people with Parkinson's can also get memory loss, constipation, difficulty with smelling, difficulty swallowing. So now they eat less. They could have erectile dysfunction, as I said, be at risk for pneumonia, fractures, falling. And then in some severe cases, they could have hallucinations, delusions, even dementia. So we're still trying to figure out why people get this. As we said, it's the second most common neurodegenerative disorder. And so we believe that it is genetic. Multiple genes have been identified. The average onset is about 60 years old. Some people, though, can get it early onset. Under age 50, like we saw with Michael J. Fox and as John had brought up. If we might even see Parkinson's very rarely under age 20. We call that juvenile onset Parkinson's. Men appear to be affected more than women. Men affected more than twice the rate. some risk can be enhanced with head trauma. So when Brett Favre was talking about how he has been, dealing with Parkinson's, you wonder, was that because of, his football days? It's just not easy. And it's, there's also been some theories that herbicides, pesticides, there's been some theories that people who smoke have less risk, but no. Talk to your medical provider. And if you're having any of the symptoms we discussed, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Hey, this is Brant along with Sherry here. And so you hear me doing these spots for MediShare, and Sherry actually helps me with them. I get people actually in person saying, okay, Brant, for real, do you recommend this? Like, yeah, for real, I actually do. I'm not just saying stuff. Family, friends ask me about it. I'm like, yes, you should look into this. It's really a great option for a lot of people.
That's what I tell people. My experience has been, MediShare has been fantastic for me.
Yeah.
It's so different from health insurance in a lot of great ways, honestly.
Yeah, and a lot of people who've switched tell me that. It's the same reaction. They're very, very happy with it, and it gives them peace of mind and saves them a lot of money.
I would tell people, look into it.
Yep. So really, for reals, if you want to talk to them, they're great to talk to. I think you'll be impressed and happy you looked into it. So you do the phone number. I'm actually tired of doing all the phone numbers.
Okay.
Call now.
855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Nice job.
Thanks.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, when you guys were in school, did you cheat? And how did you cheat? Did you do little cheat sheets? Did you write answers on your hand? Did you write answers on your thigh? I lived in Las Vegas and Phoenix. It was hot, so we were wearing shorts and skirts a lot because it was hot. So you could very easily pull up and read your thigh if you had answers on them. I knew how to cheat in school. It was just something you did in the 80s, even if I didn't need to. I used to do it to get guys' attention who I liked. Okay. Now, I didn't have the whole cheerleader vibe. Okay. But boy, I knew how to make little cheat sheets. And some of the most gorgeous jocks in the school would ask me to make them a cheat sheet. And of course, I would do it for free. It really should have been a business where I could write down on a very small little piece of paper the answers they need for a test. And, hey, I got them to talk to me. I got them to smile at me. And the funny thing is I wasn't bullied as much as you would think I would be, being smart. I got bullied in school. I went to 12 different schools. There were bullies in all of them. But I got bullied less, especially when you have a really cute, athletic guy in his Letterman jacket talking to me every Friday before the test, right? Kind of looks good. It's a good look. But people will come in. My husband does DOT physicals. And it just blows my mind how people come in and try and cheat. And so there was a guy just recently. My husband's like, Daliah, look at this. And he had FELOPZD on his hand. Now, FELOPZD is on an eye chart. These eye charts need to convert and change, like at the ophthalmologist's office. But the average doctor's office has the same eye chart. And it's the same eye chart for years, where you have E, and then I think the next letters are FOP or whatever. So by the time you get down to either the 2025 or the 2020 line, people have it memorized, FELOPZD. And but this guy has it on his hand, written. And so, my husband, was like, no, listen, no, okay? We're going to mix things up a little bit. I need to know if you could really, really see. Okay, this is your DOT physical. This is for the Department of Transportation. This is for you to operate a commercial vehicle where other lives are depending on you. Okay, you're not going to pass if you cheat. Now, in school, it was an automatic fail. Right? It was an automatic fail. But, this particular person looked like he was in his 70s. And when you stop, and I mean, I immediately was like, oh, you know what? I would give it to you because I just felt so bad for him. If you could see, I got to make sure you could see. But here's what we have such a population of people who don't want to work. And here you have somebody who's cheating. Why are they cheating? Is he in fear that he's going to lose his job? Just in case he wanted to make sure, he had all his bases covered. And so luckily he did pass because, Corey mixed up the letters and all that. See, read this letter. Well, Z, what about this letter? So you couldn't necessarily be memorizing the eye chart. So he passed. But I looked at that going, gosh, you get points for passion. You really want to still work. You still want to, be able to, and so, I mean, to me, it made me smile. And when you think about it, when you have kids that are cheating, and why are they cheating? Are they cheating because they're going to get a beating if they get a bad grade? Are they cheating because they, want to stay in that class? They don't want to be bumped. See, we used to have remedial classes and gifted classes. I didn't like gifted. I didn't want to be in the gifted classes. So I would sometimes dumb things down just so I could stay in the class I was in because I liked, the guys or whoever my friends, whatever. So what is the ulterior motive? Is it, for me, it was, I wanted a reputation where, I could help the jocks. And so, did I really, really cheat? No, I didn't have to. I knew I could do my test blindfolded. I was fortunately that good a student. But you got to kind of look and think why. So we deal with cheaters. One, in the academic world, you have students who would cheat or whatever, and that's a no-no. If you're in medical school and you're cheating, okay, that's a problem. Okay, there's an ethical issue. Okay, we need to know that you are going to take the loss, and not try to cover it up and things like that, as it pertains to a patient. So we want to see good ethics. But in medicine, we see people try and cheat on their DOT physicals. Now, the reason why they do that is they don't want to lose their license. This is how they work. Their only job is driving. Now, I don't think Uber and Lyft drivers have to get DOT physicals, do they? But I know taxi drivers do and truck drivers do. And certain medical conditions that could disqualify you as needing insulin, epilepsy, being on medications that sedate you. Marijuana is a biggie. You cannot have marijuana in your system or use marijuana and have a CDL. This is why we had such a trucker shortage after the pandemic or during COVID and the aftermath of that, because people were home. They weren't working. Marijuana was legal. In fact, there wasn't a lot of places to go. During the lockdown, you couldn't go to the dentist. You couldn't go to the local bar. You couldn't go to a restaurant, but the marijuana dispensaries were open. Well, people, they wanted to go somewhere. And so now, you're able to go back to work and you have to pass a DOT physical, and you can't do that if you have marijuana. Some companies make you do a drug test. Well, we have people who cheat. They try to bring in other people's urine. They try to dilute their urine there, when you cheat, especially for something like a DOT physical, not only are you putting yourself at harm, but you're putting other people at harm. The reason why we don't want you to drive, I have a family member who was diagnosed with macular degeneration, severe macular degeneration, now the wet form. So it's beyond repair, and technically they're legally blind. Luckily, that family member said, I don't want to drive. I don't want to get into an accident, kill myself, kill somebody else, and completely relinquished the driver's license, got rid of their car. That's kind of the attitude you need. Now, I get it. If somebody told me, Daliah, we're not going to let you drive, I don't know what to do. I love to drive. I can't drive 55, but I love to drive. And so that would be hard. And so some people might lie because of that. Or they might, be fighting or trying to cheat on their eye tests as it pertains to their regular DOT, their regular car physicals or drivers, what's it called, the DMV eye test, because they feel like, well, once they stop driving, now they can't go see their friends. Now they have to rely on other people. Now they have to, and so you always kind of want to, when you do catch somebody cheating, figure out the why. And we have tons of people that come in for DOT physicals that have really severe medical issues. Like their blood pressure's through the roof. Why aren't you taking blood pressure medicine? Well, because then I have to go and see a doctor. Then I have to, I'd rather just, wing it. Well, people are putting themselves at risk the more they cheat. And I get it. I get it. It's not fun to go to the doctor. If a doctor never gives you a diagnosis, then you don't necessarily have to take a medication, right? So a lot of you are walking around probably having diabetes, but you don't go to the doctor, you don't get checked, you don't go to your medical provider, you don't get a blood test. So you're like, whew, I don't need insulin. I remember my father saying, I'm healthy. I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm good. I'm healthy. And I'm like, well, you're healthy in your mind. Have you even let anybody do a physical? Has anybody even checked you for things? And it wasn't until he was having bad symptoms that he finally got diagnosed with diabetes, when he was losing weight and, other things. And so the FELOPZD hand writing the answer on here, I wonder how that goes. You have to cover up an eye. You can't read them when you cover up the eye. So I really don't know how that works. Just please don't cheat. You put yourself at risk. You're postponing medical care that you need, and then you're going to be putting others at risk, especially if you're driving a school bus. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of the biggest cheaters that we've seen in our lifetime was the Joe Biden administration. Nobody tried to cheat, hide, misrepresent, fool American voters as much as the Biden administration did. And now that Biden is out of office, we're hearing more and more about it. So Daily Mail is reporting that aides to Joe Biden are revealing more and more about how he was out of it and the lengths they had to go in order to keep him looking presidential during his final years in the White House. Final years. He was only in the White House for 4 years. So the final years, it looked like they had to do that from day one. One such thing they had to do was put fluorescent tape fixed to the carpet to show him where to walk at events. Why fluorescent tape? Because it's very bright. It's not something that usually is in the White House. So when they say follow the light, follow the, it's something that you can more easily do. When you have an older individual that starts to have cognitive deficits, they sometimes start to mirror children, and a child starting to, learn for the first time. And so sometimes somebody with cognitive deficits may be like a 9-year-old. Sometimes they might be more like a 5-year-old. Sometimes you might see tantrums like a 3-year-old. And so we will do things to kind of help them that we would similarly do with the child who's learning. You can't find your keys? Then here is a pretty identifiable thing to put on your keychain so that you don't lose them or forget them when you're reaching for your keys. Things like that. Well, so for Biden, while he was in public walking to events, if you saw, he kept looking at the ground. Well, it could have been because he was looking for fluorescent tape. One aide said that the then president was so out of it during preparation for his debate with Donald Trump that he thought he was, quote, president of NATO rather than the United States. Now, there's a lot of books now that are coming out about him during the presidency. And for what we understand, 4 are coming out talking about his decline. And, it's sad because we called it. We saw it when he was running for office. We saw it when he was vice president to Obama. And then, and I thought during the primary, Pete Buttigieg would have probably come out a little stronger. Or the thing is they didn't have a lot to run on. I think Beto O'Rourke was trying to support taking people's guns away. I think Elizabeth Warren was trying to push for universal income and paying off student debt. These were not popular things. So all the Democrats could do in the last primary for the 2020 election was then try to ride the coattails of Obama. And the only way you could do that is using the vice president to Obama, Joe Biden. And that's what happened. Meanwhile, we're like, this isn't an age thing. He's struggling. He is struggling. Now, what type of preparation did Biden have? Well, according to Ron Klain, who served as Biden's chief of staff for 2 years and advised him during the 2024 campaign, described to author Chris Whipple the 6 days the staff spent at Camp David trying to get Biden into shape for his first and only debate with Trump. He said, we sat around the table. Biden had answers on cards, and he was just extremely exhausted. And I was struck by how out of touch with American politics he was. He was just very, very focused on his interactions with NATO leaders. He says, quote, he just became very enraptured with being the head of NATO. And he wondered, half seriously, if Biden thought he was the president of NATO instead of the United States. And I get that you could be overwhelmed. I get that you're doing a lot. There's a lot you need to know. You're a little nervous about being on the fly. But people dressed him up, propped him up to be the Democratic contender. He beats Donald Trump, even though there's been a lot of controversy of how that happened with the mail-in ballots. And he gets elevated to presidency. And he becomes the president. And we as American citizens deserved better. And if he couldn't even figure out where to go, on stage, where he could go, and just look at the ethics behind this. Now, the reason why we're anti-cheating is because people don't have a moral compass. They don't have the ethics. They don't understand good from bad. And cheating puts people at risk. They kept double downing on Biden, saying he's fine, he's perfect. Look at his policies. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then, it finally took George Clooney, who was like, look, I got a reputation to protect. He didn't say that. But you know what was going on through his mind. Here he is. He wants pictures with the president. He's, organizing fundraisers with Julia Roberts, and he's getting there on camera, and he's realizing this is going to be a bad look. This man is really losing it. And I got to say something, because otherwise people think I'm dumb. And he did. A little too late. They should have said it before he even ran against Trump in 2020. But it finally took people saying, look, now our reputations are on the line. And I was listening to a Democrat at one of the, she's a radio host, a left-leaning radio host, who said, look, I was duped. This was at a radio conference. I was duped. And first of all, you're brilliant. You're very highly educated. You were duped. And she said, I even on air said I was mad because they were telling me that Biden was in charge and doing things. And I'm like, anybody, a 5-year-old could have watched him and seen him at press conferences and just, how were you duped? And so unfortunately, that's what very highly educated Democrats who were backing Biden, are left with saying. I would say something else. Because you're lying also. Were you really duped? I would be honest. If you are in a position where now all this stuff is coming out and you're like, really? Amy Klobuchar, really? You didn't notice? Elizabeth Warren, really? Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, are you telling me that this is the breadth of your acumen and intelligence, where somebody you're working with is sitting there barely able to walk and you see the fluorescence and you're telling me you didn't think there was an issue? Come on. It makes the whole party look inept. Really? Be honest. They really should be honest. And so if I was a Democrat who was, a higher up and in that, I would say, look, guys, I had to make a choice. We all did. We had to make a choice between being loyal and supporting our current president or speaking out, and without medical evidence per se. We could see it, but without a doctor's written medical write-up because his doctor didn't examine him cognitively. Our other choice was to accuse him of having a medical issue and cognitive impairment. And so the choice we made was, we're going to play it safe, and we're going to be loyal, and it probably wasn't the best thing for the American people, and we were wrong. And I'm sorry. But we all had to make a choice. And it was either supporting our current president and supporting the party, or going out there and saying something that we didn't have the medical documentation to back us up on. And that could be something the Democrats could say to save a little face. But the truth of the matter is we were lied to. And then who was running the country, which we were asking all these years, who's running the country? Pretty dangerous. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.